Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by addressing the question from Mr. Hill on the evidence of coherence existing in the region's pursuit of its security cooperation interests. In fact, first let me say that I agree that the region does not seem to have done enough. Well, there's enough evidence to confirm we've not done enough to advocate and to pursue our security cooperation interests at the global level in the UN system. In fact, when I went to the United Nations in March, where I met Mr. Epps, I was in fact now for the first time being asked to leave where I had really been assigned to function at the national, regional, and hemispheric level. You note much of my discourse in my presentation referred to work done in the inter-American system. And I was now being told to go to the UN system. In fact, at that meeting, I sat with our diplomatic officers. And again, this is where small countries, there was not a security, a technical expert at the mission to help advise in crafting statements. And on that occasion, we in fact gave 3 statements. And so I will agree that there's not yet evidence of adequate advocacy and coherence in terms of integrating and mobilizing our voices at the level of the UN system. But with respect to where we are doing that, the CARICOM heads at a special meeting, the 13th special meeting in April 2008, in fact, laid out, and I referred to it in my slide, the strategic intent of what we will pursue. So it is now clear what our security, our regional security interests are. There's no question about that. In fact, CARICOM Impacts has, and I have a copy here with me, they have a very clearly articulated work plan. In Washington, we were able to take the elements of that CARICOM security strategy and plug them into the resolution of the Organization of American States on the special security concerns of small island states. So, reflected in that resolution adopted 2 days ago at the OAS General Assembly are all the key strategic elements of what is the regional security plan. So that's one element in which you see me referring to some advances being made with respect to coherence. A decision made in the region that we have ensured is also reflected in commitments, mandates, embraced and reflected in OAS General Assembly statements. And that's at the multilateral level. We are particularly strong in pursuing a coherent approach now in our bilateral relations. And so I'd want to highlight, for instance, the recent meeting in Suriname, where we had a very successful round of discussion, a dialogue with the United States, CARICOM United States. And again, what drove that discourse was that very strategic intent that came out of the April 2008 heads of government strategy. So we are building muscle. So this is new. Between 2005 and now, much has been done. In fact, between 2005 and now, the Consulate has met, I think, on 8 occasions. That's at the rate of possibly twice a year. And each of those meetings has really led to significant advances. But I do agree in highlighting those successes that we do need to engage the UN system much more in terms of a point of advocacy. I am very careful always in offering openly things that I am researching quietly. The Tourism Security Initiative was one that I was researching very quietly in 2004 before it came to light in 2005 when I forwarded it to my bosses and they agreed. And when I went to the UN system in March, the whole issue of an arms trade treaty, and there's something referred to as the PSI, the Proliferation Security Initiative. Again, just as we found within the broad counter-terrorist context a specific area of interest for the region, tourism security, I have identified an area of particular interest to us, and I will use the, I will share it here for the first time. I'm still completing the research before I come forward with my bosses, but it's the issue of diversion. And this region does not produce arms. We are not major importers, exporters of arms, but arms are diverted through this region. And so, just as there's a proliferation security initiative, I'm researching, conceptualizing, clarifying the concept of maybe we need a diversion reduction initiative that we will then be able to take to the UN within the context of the Arms Trade Treaty. And you would have heard in the statements we made at the time regular references to diversion. So there is room for us to pursue, and I think I have covered the responses that I was required to give. Thanks very much.
Quickly, just to respond to one component part of Sheridan's question on 1540, and just to make mention, of course, that these are opportunities that we're going to be seeking in the CARICOM increasingly more and more. We have, of course, United Nations mandates that are obligations that obviously must be taken seriously and must be complied with as UN member states. But it's important, which is, I think, the basis of Sheridan's question, it's important that these resolutions be used to simultaneously deal with day-to-day challenges on the ground for us. While Resolution 1540 is focused, as I said, on chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons, the fact is that to the extent that our ports and to the extent that our borders really are given the kind of attention, are provided with the kind of capacity, are strengthened, those are the same instruments that will prevent trafficking in small arms, trafficking in illegal narcotics, trafficking in persons, a range of attendant of moment issues that are relevant to the Caribbean. So on the one hand, we are fulfilling our obligations within the context of the UN system, at the same time dealing also with local challenges in our domestic reality, which of course have greater pertinence on a day-to-day basis, certainly to the citizens of our countries, as well as policymakers. And just quickly on this whole notion of an early warning system, where quite frankly treating the whole issue of natural disasters in the region with the kind of primacy and importance that they deserve. I absolutely agree with you that this is one area that really has not gotten the attention that it deserved. I made mention only this morning of the kind of consequence that can ensue from a natural disaster, as we saw in Grenada, where the country was effectively rendered non-functional. The fact is, though, that we are yet to engage this problem with the requisite kind of heft and zeal, quite frankly, that we should. Because if there's an annual reality that faces this region that can compromise our entire functionality, it's a hurricane. We have not really been treating with this issue with the kind of seriousness that it deserves.
Okay, thank you very much. Although we are about 10 minutes running late, I think we have a very useful meeting here, panel. So obviously 21st century security is different from what we've known before. Particularly, you know, one of our military attaché was mentioning about citizen-focused security is very important. Military men can talk about citizens, and obviously we're having a totally different, good, encouraging security notion for now. So having said that, I think let me conclude our first session here, and I'm sure lunch is ready in outside, right? All right, so thank you for the panelists, and this is the end of our session. Thank you.